everybody that worked to put that together. I think that's tremendous for our, to get return visitors to some of our great events. So good job. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
I won't belabor it too long, but again, ditto with what all of our council members have said, and I know our fellow police officers in other communities close to us have experienced some tragic situations, difficult situations, really over the last 3 weeks, and I know of one situation in Mooresville when we had a law enforcement officer who also was injured close to someone that we know here in Troutman. And again, our prayers, thoughts and prayers go out to all of them, and appreciate what they do every day. Glad to see Andrew here. I also I appreciate the work that Lynn did while she was here. I know Andrew and I have talked about an opportunity to highlight Troutman at CRTPO that's coming up, and look forward to getting his leadership with our planning department as well. I will turn it over to the manager for staff comments at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We certainly will discuss in the agenda briefing some of the topics that was brought up. This past week, I was able to visit the hospital the day of the incident in Charlotte. It's amazing how many people interact in our whole area as their daily lives, and we don't realize family members or school teachers here at South Iredell, others work in various facets within Iredell County. For years, we have just assumed incidents happening in Charlotte just affect those that choose to live in Charlotte. And this was a prime example. An incident in Charlotte severely impacted our community. As our police chief has told you all in previous reports, a lot of the crime that we are dealing with is overflow from Charlotte. We have some anti-growth people who thinks, well, we are encouraging that as you all as an elected body and we as staff because we continue to grow. But if you look at our communities overall in the area, if you just get North Carolina and look at Georgia, if communities grow, that sprawl is based off of several economic and other factors. We happen to be in that situation now to where industry, business wants to locate to North Carolina. That creates a job force need that in itself, as a lot of people educate their children or pay for their children's secondary education, is so that they can get bigger and better jobs, so to speak. But as a parent of a child who chose to go into law enforcement, especially with what's been happening in the national media, we want to encourage our children to do something. All I would say is, whether it be the military, whether it be law enforcement, our first line people who defend our freedoms should certainly not be forgotten. And it's unfortunate that tragedies that occurred last week is what reminds us all that things are not always good. But even though as horrendous as that was, there has been major support from all over the world, not just the United States, and all states, not just North Carolina, for these victim families. For a couple of the officers, one in particular, very close, our chief and others in this agency worked with and helped train at some point in time in their career. We are very thankful that he is living even though he's healing. And it's just one of those situations. I don't know that we can say enough that a tragedy makes us grateful and reminds us to be grateful for what we are taking for granted on a daily basis. And I thank each of you all for your comments in that area. Otherwise, I'll go on with the agenda whenever you direct me, Mayor.
May I do a comment?
Sure.
I was looking at a document the other day, and believe it or not, 26 years, I've been the town attorney for 26, going on 27 years. But fortunately for me, I have decided to retire. And so I wanted to give y'all notice of that. I will continue on until you can appoint another town attorney. I would, with the growth that Troutman is about to have, I would highly recommend trying to find somebody who has a lot of experience in local government law, land use planning law. I'll be happy to put a notice out on the local government attorney listserv, and because that's it, municipal law and land use planning has almost become a specialty area, and so you really need to look for people like that. I did copy off, and I'll provide each of you one of these. 2 towns close to us, Sparta and Matthews, just went through a search, and these were their requests for proposals. So I just thought I'd give you those as a go by or a reference. Short, must be short, 1 or 2.
Kim can get you a copy of it.
I thought I had more than
Send
enough.
Jessica back to make copies of it.
I'm the unknown councilman.
Do you want to go?
I didn't know you were
Okay,
here.
thank you.
Mr. Invisible.
Sorry, I thought I had more than enough. So anyway, that's where you are. I'd like to be done by the end of June. If it takes longer than that, then I'm willing to do what I need to do. So just let y'all know that.
Gary, thank you for your continued service to the town. Appreciate it. You've been the attorney of record as long as I've been in elected office. So again, thank you for your time here and continued direction. We appreciate it. Why?
Yes, we need a motion.
I just had one thing I forgot under my report, and I want to apologize. Maybe if our town manager or any of our elected officials could fill me in on this, because I was made aware that our county commissioners had some movement with a meeting with our fairgrounds. And I honestly don't know much about it, but I've heard some stories. I do kind of wish that they would have maybe sent us some information on their visions and their approval on what they did. I've heard a hotel, they're gonna redo the old barns, they're gonna, numerous things. And I haven't seen any emails from county commissioners or anything like that. So even though that the fairgrounds is in our great town, evidently they don't think that they have to let us know what's going on there. So does anybody know a little bit more what I'm talking about?
You want to take the lead on it?
Sure.
All right.
Basically, starting when Chairman James Mallory was the chair of the county commission, there was a committee put together to where the mayor and or his designee, that wound up being me as the town manager, joined what they called a fairgrounds committee. That involved House members from Iredell County, also North Carolina House members, North Carolina Senator, and a lot of county staff and 2 county commissioners, Chairman Mallory himself and Commissioner Scotty Brown. We had several meetings over the years to come up with something that was kind of like what several of you all had talked to the mayor about and or we had discussed openly. There was progress made, pros and cons of various plans, various options. They hired a company to come in and basically design a layout of the fairgrounds. Before decisions could be made, it needed to be, what is the total cost of this package going to be? Can it be broken down in phases? Can the fairgrounds be remained open so that it can be used while construction is going on or where? The intent I think, of the committee was to get away from it being a fairgrounds and it being an event center. Two different things. Absolutely to continue honoring the number one business in Iredell County, which is actually agriculture, and then to utilize it for those purposes, but also to make it profitable to where we sit in a region. Things discussed would be like a farmer's market, a community kitchen during cases of emergency, but a lot of travel sports like volleyball, indoor soccer, different things, conventions. The intent also at the request of Statesville and Mooresville was not to compete with how they are renting either their citizen center or their version in Statesville. But the whole concept was to have an event center that you could have multiple events going on at one time. The town had actually spoke with a previous developer, and 14 acres was awarded to the town because the school system had said 14 acres was not enough for them to build any type of a school. They in turn donated it to the town. The town even offered at our meetings that to use that 14 acres as part of the design process. Possibly an outdoor amphitheater with the neighborhood that is being projected in Wakefield, Barium Springs, that it would enhance maybe as an entrance point to the event center area, and or again, 3 or 4 events could be occurring at one time. Depending on the size of the events, they certainly could have utilized our amphitheater area in the evenings when certain events would be over. All that was discussed on the committee. For whatever reason, several commissioners started playing traffic control and determining what was best for us and is best for the complaints. The county commissioners, as I understand it, felt like not knowing how much the school system was going to cost them. Let me say this, I forgot. The total project build out of everything the committee had come up with was somewhere in the neighborhood of $57 million. So the county commissioners then met and had their own discussion amongst themselves and determined, as best I know, because of the school not being built on Weathers Creek, not knowing what that price was or was not, having refunded tax rate monies instead of or reducing the tax rates that was incurred, there's a different mentality. Do we leave taxes the same and save for infrastructure costs that we know are needed in the future, or do you give some of the money back? Of course, I don't know that there's a right answer amongst public opinion, but the commissioners have certainly fell under attack because of their choices in that matter. There are different things that they have been told they need to build: a courthouse, a sheriff's office, a Department of Social Services building, additions already to some other facilities that they have, and of course the event center or fairgrounds. They are already constructing a $27-ish million upgrade to Jennings Park in North Iredell. The other amenities like the park down at Stumpy Creek was not being utilized according to public opinion as much as it could or should be down there. So all of these things came under discussion. The commissioners then decided, hey, we're putting everything on hold until we decide what's going to be done with the school. The lawmakers had given 2 incremental $5 million awards from the state of North Carolina. The county commissioners had pledged $6 million. As part of that plan for the event center, one of the things that was discussed in the committee as a whole thought was a great idea was a certain portion of the fairgrounds, current fairgrounds facility, as the event center would be leased to a hotel owner or operator. Depending on the term of the lease, that could be a 20 to 30-year lease, that owner would then pay the county for the privilege of using the facility that close to these other amenities. At the end of the lease, of course, that property then become Iredell County's property. So the county would have made money by leasing it. The county never was going to build a hotel. That was never in any plan that we participated in. There were other things that was talked about as accessories, such as the amphitheater. Well, that would have been on the town to bore the cost, but in the final things that they approved, that was not anywhere in their mapping. It was not even discussed. After the lawmakers got wind that, hey, they're not gonna do this, with these other needs, the courthouse and sheriff's office in particular, the lawmakers started getting pressure from other lawmakers in the state. If your county is backing up, you must not have needed this money as bad after all. We've got needs, this money needs to go elsewhere. So once that information started trickling, then the county commissioners decided, okay, we will spend the state's $10 million and go with a phase one that we have not been involved in that discussion. I can't tell you what buildings will be, where they're gonna go. At this point, they have not reached out to me or the town to say this is what we're thinking. Mr. Mayor, did I leave anything out?
No, I would say from a Troutman perspective, we think we passed a couple of, proclamations, but just to restate to the commissioners over the last few years that we wanted the fairgrounds to remain in Troutman. And I think as Ron mentioned, there's a couple of opportunities where they were looking at moving it elsewhere, but they did include us on the committee on that front end. So we were able to see kind of what we thought or believed is a scenario for an event center, regional event center, with a location for our hotels. But as Ron said, it was not to be built by the county or by the town, but by a third party. I think there's, at least the last meeting I attended, there were still a lot of things that needed to be worked out. So I'm assuming there will be some follow-up conversations. But as Ron said, I don't know what the quote-unquote first phase of that looks like. We have had conversations with the committee about this being a phased project because it is a fairly large price tag once complete. But again, we don't know what, I don't know what they actually quote-unquote approved and passed in terms of what phase, the first phase is.
One of the-
Question, you know, I take a walk around my neighborhood in the evening, and I'm running into neighbors, and they're saying, we're getting a hotel at the fairgrounds, we're getting new barns. I'll go to Food Line, I run into some people I know, same questions. I'm sitting there like I don't know nothing.
Well-
Hotel, what are you talking about?
One thing I left out that's also crucial for the discussion for all of you all, you're correct, the fairgrounds is in our town. When we talk about a hotel occupancy tax, by state law, a county and municipalities can charge up to 6% additional room cost, and that money has to be spent in certain criteria. For whatever reason, over the years, the county commissioners have allowed Statesville to charge 5%, giving up their option of 2%. They have allowed Mooresville to charge 4% and given up 1%. We as Troutman, of course, don't have a hotel, so we've not been involved in the conversation. But by statute, the commissioners were told if the money is raised in a certain area, that's the only place it can be spent. There are different versions through several different groups throughout the state that says, no, that's not true. Again, I'm not arguing with what they have been told is right or wrong. I can just say we were not involved in the conversation. So then a couple of the commissioners started floating the idea of de-annexing the fairgrounds from the town, and that way they could keep all the money. The problem is, they're not charging any hotel tax anywhere. So it would make no sense to do that if they're not even charging hotel tax. If they ever get around to charging hotel tax, then they could get 3%. If anybody up there is feeding the information that they couldn't use that 3% in Troutman, being as they have a rec facility right there, that could easily be annexed into our town and become an expenditure that they certainly could use the money for, is absolutely got their heads in the snowbank somewhere. They're not paying attention. But they would still fall under our ETJ. So whether it's personality issues from staff to staff, improper information, that's something that they were discussing. We were told to keep the Fairgrounds Committee meetings almost like closed session to stop a lot of the rumors that was going on out there. We were asked not to share the what ifs and the maybes. That way it did not feed a frenzy of people in the community saying different things. But just like this afternoon, I had the press ask me, what's the deal with the hotel? Just like you heard. They was gonna build a hotel. That was never the case. That's people taking something that, to my knowledge, has never been said and turning it into something else to feed a storyline and or just bad rumor mill.
Now, the only reason why I was bringing that up in question is, it would be nice if they were a little bit more transparent. I'm not saying with the community, but with the elected officials of Troutman, who they're basically in a partnership with. So, I mean, that's kind of my feeling there. I just wish a little more transparency with you and the town manager and the town council.
Yeah,
Because when you run into people,
yeah.
I'm looking like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah, I would have hoped that before it was on their agenda, we would have known kind of thing. I didn't necessarily know it's gonna be on the agenda for them to move forward with it when they did. I think clearly, as Ron said, I mean, we were kind of hush-hush and not to get it spread too far and wide, but yeah, things like the hotel, I think would benefit our town in particular, and we don't really have occupancy tax here. I think we get a little bit that shows up on the budget. No idea necessarily where it comes from. I've heard, VRBOs and this sort of thing, but I think clearly, I think it would benefit the town long term if we could charge or have the ability to have that revenue. And so I would say that's an area if we would and have advocated to try to see if we could get something like that in the town to support tourism in the town long term. But clearly, I assume that we will start to hear more about it. Now it's kind of out there in public, and I guess some amount of dollars approved, but we'll start to hear more about where that goes.
Yeah, two things. Number one, there had been a push among a couple commissioners to relocate the event center to another part of the county, and then they found out what they would cost. So that kind of took the wind out of their sails to do that. So they're back in Troutman. And as far as the hotel, there was something out there because I read it. I don't know where it's from, but it was something in the media.
It was Iredell Free News.
It
It was Iredell Free News.
Okay.
Article, they mentioned the hotel.
I saw the hotel mentioned. I having attended a couple of meetings that the town manager and mayor talking about, I was aware of that and heard it also in the formal conversation. And also if it becomes an event center, that would be a good hotel there and so forth, as has been mentioned. But the closeness or the, I'm trying to think of the correct word, but, under Chairman Malley, we were included a lot more in this discussion than now, and it's a shame. And I don't understand why. As been pointed out, it's in our community, in our town, and we're being excluded, and I don't understand why. To me, it's just common
Courtesy.
sense and common courtesy, thank you, sir, to include. And perhaps that will happen, I don't know, but it certainly should. We're all adults, we need to act like adults. And put our little, dislikes and likes, childish dislikes and likes of personalities away and get on with business. But at any rate, I agree, it's in all these that, hopefully going forward we'll be more included as this thing more materializes. But the longer they put this off, the more it's gonna cost. It's like pay me now, pay me a lot more later, the old commercial. But I look forward to it. It's something we've been discussing for a long time, and hopefully it'll come fruition. And I I hope it'll be in partnership with commissioners and not in spite of. Not just-
Such big changes like this at that location, would that have any impact on the zoning?
Certain parcels that they have not been changed in rezoning, so yes, to answer your question, it certainly zoning would need to be looked at for the entire parcel. Like I mentioned earlier, them buying the rec facility over the town of Troutman, when Troutman had an offer in on it, that part has never been annexed into the town. I know there has been offers from developers to purchase the whole property and or parts of the property that all seem to, just like here, there's 6 of you all, so I'm sure different ones on the county commission think selling is a great idea. Others is like, nope, never selling. What is this worth? Well, if you have to go over here and property's half price, is it worth it? But just like at one of the meetings the mayor and I attended together, my simple question was, do you like all these buildings? Do you think they're necessary? Yes. Well, then how does it get cheaper regardless if you build it in eastern Iredell or western Iredell or northern Iredell? If you gave them 10% for topography challenges or issues, how does it get cheaper to build this in some other part? And then the question was switched to transportation, and that the roads was not big enough to handle the facility. And it's like, that's, as one of the lawmakers from Raleigh said, that's a simple fix. We can design that and work it through DOT. If you will ever build the facility, then we can make the road better.
So it's not just, seems like we're not completely dark. Thank you.
All right, the first item we have is budget discussion. Justin and I met with a couple council members today. We sent out an email. Justin has passed the general fund revenues to you all. I'll be glad to discuss anything in particular. I think my text messages to 2 of you all, so we didn't break the meetings law, may have actually confused a couple of you more than it helped, and I apologize for that. As I met with council members today, Justin, and have started talking to staff already, our intention for staff, one, our town has historically been behind. Let me back up a second. As I explained to you all previously, in previous years when we paid people to do salary adjustments and salary analysis for us, they would go as far as 3 hours drive away and pick municipalities similar to our size. And as I have relayed to you all before, in one way of thinking, that sounds great. What does people our size pay? But then, as I told you all, I'm not competing with Valdez to hire most positions we're hiring. Our competition as a government is the town of Mooresville, city of Statesville, or Iredell County for a lot of these positions. Depending on somebody's roots, it may even be Rowan County, Mecklenburg County, Forsyth County, some of those. So we then concentrated on counties using staff instead of spending $25,000 to $75,000 to basically look within an hour's drive of our area, or what are the towns paying. Absolutely, there's some that's bigger than us that are paying appreciably less. There are some that are our size that are paying appreciably more because they, like us, are in competition with whatever is in their county and not somebody that's that far away. So we started a couple years ago with the town council at the time of ensuring that we had certain salaries to where we were average to the area and to the market, such as our police officers, such as our administrative personnel, such as entry-level public works directors. We are within range of our competition and the general area. That does not mean that we offer the highest rate of pay for a starting police officer. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying we are within range. Some people may say, wait a minute, this is Troutman. You don't have as much crime as XYZ does. That could be true depending on what category they are picking from, but at the same token, I'm of the mindset, and having spoke with a couple other police chiefs within the last week, we all tend to be of the mindset a lot of these municipalities are having to play catch up because you have some that are offering as much as a $15,000 signing bonus to go and work at their law enforcement agency. $15,000 because they are not in market rate, because the crime rate there is bad, because they don't feel like the administration at those locations are doing an ample job of making sure that officers, first of all, have the tools that they need to do their job. So what we have been doing here for over a 3-year process, one, is to not jump out in front of anyone. We're not trying to be number one in salary. What we are trying to do is recruit good people that do a good job and they're getting a fair return. They're not just getting the training and experience from us and then leaving in 2 years because now that they're trained, somebody else is willing to pay them 20% more than we were. And that used to be the cycle that the town of Troutman was in. We would hire somebody, get them started, they go somewhere else, make 20 to 30% more money, and then we would have to go through the retraining, rehiring process. We're at the stage now for most departments, we are able to hire good people at good average market salaries. Now, what I discussed with council members today is our department directors are not the same. Some of them is appreciably like half of what a department director equivalent would make in another place. Now, part of that reason is how or why I hired the person and them growing and getting the education and tools that they need. But the other parts is we've been small town Troutman, not understanding the growth that we have had and still offering the protections that we need to. So while I have gotten closer with some department heads on what the average rate is, what was suggested by a couple members today is we should be at least in the 90 percentile range. I took mine out of that. I took one person who we did not hire to have the full credentials in that specific role, took them out of that, and everybody else, we're looking to make sure they're in that range. That's the budget that you all have, that Justin was able to put out there. It puts my department directors not 90% of what the sheriff of Iredell County makes for the police chief. That cost us $180,000. He's not that, but he is 90% of towns similar to our size and generally close to the market rate. So that's what we're trying to get. There was only 3 positions, if I recall correctly, that required some adjustment, and none of them were drastic. Well, let me rephrase that. To the normal person reviewing the statistics, they would not be drastic, but to some people, it's as much as a $10,000 salary difference, which is significant. Is that a better way of saying that, Justin?
Yes, sir.
So that's our intent on those 3 key positions, police chief, finance director, and public works director, is to get those 3 in line. Other than that, our anticipated COLA, because we have been behind one of our neighbors or all of our neighbors the last 3 years that have been here. The one year we had a very high overall COLA and merit raise, the county was still 2% higher that year overall. And speaking with a few of you, we kind of have the mindset of what's called level reset. And basically, if we offer a merit raise, then 90% of our employees should not achieve the full merit raise potential. Level reset is based off of annual production and what they mean in that role. So a lot of our employees, while good, are not being perfect, here's the full raise. So only about 10% of the workforce would qualify for a full merit raise. About 25%-ish, could be as much as a third, could be a little less, would qualify for the 2%. Projected merit we had was 3%. So 10% would get 3, around 25%, give or take, would qualify for 2, and around 25%, give or take, would qualify for 1. That would leave somewhere around a third to 40% of our employees that's they're not getting a merit raise because they did not exceed the job expectations. That's what cost of living was to do, is to make sure that we got balance based off of last year's growth in government. So our projection was 4% for cost of living, and then the percentages I told you all for the normal staff members. Is there any questions you all have or further explanation?
3% on merit.
Yes, sir. 4% COLA, 3% merit. Merit would be in January. It would not be done in July. It would be done in January.
COLA is done in
July, first pay period. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have a question on Director of Public Works. Does he have all the certificates that he needs and all the, whatever, courses to actually, like what Adam had, to hold that position?
He has more certifications than Adam had. He still has one area that I need him to get a different level for us to be complete. In certifications that he has to have. And he is working on that. Correct, 1. Any other questions? If no more on the budget session, number 3 will be our upcoming agenda.
Do we need to add on what was requested?
When would we discuss whether or not we want to increase this?
That's, if you all take a vote Thursday, we will have it on the agenda for Thursday for the budget to be approved. That way next month, it has to be,
No, we don't need to approve it.
to be posted, not a final approval.
Correct. We need to get the final numbers to council so that then we have 10 days to post it for public observation. And then the council can take a vote in June.
You got a public hearing too.
Correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
But it has to be posted. Once you all have had time to peruse this, ask any more questions, Thursday, I would like you all's permission to either post it as presented or make modifications that you all think is necessary. It is not to have final approval of the budget. It's to put it out for all to see and or question. We have a couple of things in there. I forget, there was one in particular you may know off the top of your head, that we're creating line items that we didn't have before. So we certainly expect there to be some questions and clarity asked from those in the public that choose to review.
And Justin, as our finance
Yes, sir.
director, with these raises that we're talking about for our
Yes, sir.
finance director, our police chief, and our public works,
Yes, sir.
the money is there. And not in it right now, but the money is there for us to add, am I correct?
No, what you've got in your hand, it's already been factored into that.
No, but what I'm at.
Where'd it come
The
from?
increase in the police chief, the increase in yours,
Oh,
the increase of our
yes, sir.
public works director.
Probably
Yes.
not.
It's not like we gotta look around
Right,
the floor
correct.
for that money.
Correct.
We have it, right?
Correct. we've been in talks, like, I'll just go ahead and tell you, like, we've been in researching on how to increase our interest in money sitting in the bank. And so, that line item was adjusted. The town manager and I have sat down with a few entities where, you know, if our money can earn more for the town, then obviously we're gonna look to take action on that. And we've already taken some action, but there could be more. Does that help?
The clerk's got something to tell you.
That vote will be on the 13th, that's correct.
Okay, so when we go over the the regular agenda, in the minutes, I forgot to list the March 14th regular meeting minutes. And I just remembered it today as I was going through some things. And so I printed them out for you, for your packets, and then it'll be on the final agenda that I'll revise tomorrow. I'll have that.
Was I there?
We'll find out.
I was trying to figure out if I was there.
You could have gotten it
It
in.
says he wasn't in the closed session.
Right, yeah, you can point that out.
Oh, it went up there, I missed it.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't say my whole touch still.
Thank you. All right.
Everyone go ahead.
I am, if y'all ready. For the overview of our regular meeting, first of all, let me tell you, number 14 on page 2, under recognitions, presentations, and introductions. Officer Windsor will not be available to be here, so we'll postpone that to another time. So we are omitting number 14 at this time. So back to page 1, call the order blocks as normal. Consent agenda, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are normal business meetings and minutes. Number 5, consider approval of design review board building elevations as recommended by the DRB to include materials and colors for Dorian Elderly Apartments, which will be located at the corner of Litton Street and Talley. Does anybody have any specific questions about that? The DRB has already reviewed and made the recommendation for it to go forward. Andrew is here if you all have any specific questions.
Should that be titled, senior instead of elderly?
I would think so.
Where?
That's the way they had it in their application, so.
Well, I got it 2 places. One does say senior, one says elderly. I'm assuming it.
Number 5.
50 and above, I would consider that to be senior as opposed to elderly. I don't know how you
Senior.
get to your elderly, whatever.
Maybe it's from the staff, but maybe that's how you put it out there. I was looking at it, I can't see. Under the case number.
DRB 2402. Number 6, annexation request non-contiguous. Applicant William and Samantha Deal have 2.2 acres South Main Street. This is simply a directive advising the clerk to investigate. If approval of the certificate of sufficiency, the hearing would be for June 13th, 2024. Any questions on that?
Where's that property located? I'm trying to figure it out.
You know, when you're leaving town, going on South Main Street out towards exit 42, there's one little house that I think you'll know, it's the house that always has flags kind of sitting on it on the right-hand side, right next to the,
Let's go grand.
right next to where this new storage facility is going. It's like the only little donut piece that's not in the town limit at this time. So I think the owners have finally sold, so they're looking to,
Before you get to Barkdale Road on the right.
they're looking to go to HB next.
Okay.
Setback off the road.
That's right.
So go gonna be.
No, it don't sit back off the road.
No, it's right on.
It's a
the-
double wide,
Yeah.
pretty close to the road.
Gray. Grayish.
Right,
Remaining on that.
yeah, grayish blue, yes.
So they finally decided, after all that around them, they finally decided.
The money got high enough, yes.
I understand, okay. Money talks, everything else walks.
Yes.
So
Number,
does that just leave, we got a few pockets left on our side,
There's-
closer to on our side?
There's a couple on the other side of the road, but the majority of that western side of South Main Street will now be under our jurisdiction. I think there might be one other piece, but it's pretty much good since it was checkboarded out there. So, it's much nicer to take them into the town limit and try to do ETJ.
Does it extend our contiguous? Sorry.
Does that connect, Andrew, the back of those properties connect with anything contiguous?
I think there's still a little gap out there, so this request is non-contiguous, but it's very close to being one.
We're getting there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have a little small portion at the end of, it's not Byers Road, but back behind Jacobs Woods. It is Byers Road. But I think there's a little small sliver of property back there that keeps it from being non-contiguous. But now to think about it, we can look, but one of the Falls Cove phases might now make it attached. We'll just have to look. Yep. I think it may. Mhm.
Blank. Good call.
Number 7, annexation contiguous applicant Gerardo Cruz. It's 1.227 acres. At the corner, it's 466 and 470 East Mumbo. I'm sorry, that is not a corner. I misspoke. But 466 and 470 East Mumbo Road. Again, it's directing the clerk to investigate and then set a public hearing date of June 13th. Andrew, is there anything you'd like to add to that portion?
This is strictly, we passed a town ordinance that if anybody wants water or sewer, they're now required to annex into town. This is just 2 lots that are about a half acre in size, currently on East Marlboro Road that want the town water, and it's got the line running in front of it. So basically, we're just swapping half acre county zoning and half acre town zoning.
Is that water and sewer they're getting?
At this present time, there's just a water line out there. That's all we're requesting.
So I remember correctly, there's a lot in between these two.
There
Is
is.
that occupied, anybody own that, or what's the situation with that?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's one of these lots that's very narrow with the road frontage, and then it goes behind where these properties end, and it widens out and goes back, so it's more of, I think it's more of an agricultural use lot that is owned by somebody else.
Number 8 is consider resolution for awarding a service firearm to retiring officer Elmore. By state statute, this requires a $1 fee if you also choose to do that. That typically is paid by the entity manager, which if it costs me $1 to get rid of Elmo, I'm all right with that. I say that in jest. I'm sure somebody on social media will be like, what?
How many years for?
He's 22 total.
Total, law enforcement only, I think it's 15 or 16.
I forgot he started out econ first.
Okay.
22 total in law enforcement,
No, 15-ish.
15 is on law enforcement. Are you able to say what's his last day?
May 31st. It's a retirement week. It's the last working day. His retirement effective June 1st.
And he would not, of course, get this until that day is served. Consider approval, number 9, consider approval of audit contract with Thompson Price Scott Adams. That's the firm we have used the last 2 years. As you all recall, when I first got here, I suggested that we alternate every 2 to 3 years from firms. But as the mayor and we all discussed publicly, a lot of these firms that were doing audits came back as one did to us and did not perform their just duties. And we as in exchange got a black eye through the process in North Carolina. This company, how they do it, instead of switching company names to do the audit, the personnel that's involved and the audit changes. So, Justin, you got anything you wish to add to that?
No, sir. They do a great job, so I recommend continuing on. I think we did a 3-year contract when they first started, or they gave us a 3-year proposal, so this will be the 3rd and final year. So next spring, we'll need to do, or early next calendar year, we'll need to do another RFP for that.
Has the marketplace changed?
It's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's,
If I remember correctly, we had kind of, I think, did a resolution to try every 2 or 3 years to switch it up or something, but I think that's been said, it's gonna go by the wayside.
When we went with this company, that was our intent, 2 to 3 years alternate. But again, in looking at the market conditions, if you have a good firm doing it, again, the in-house thing to do is they change some personnel, not all of them, just some of the personnel that's involved with the audit. That way it goes under the integrity thing of Justin hadn't made friends with this person, therefore it's not scrutinized. It keeps that from occurring. Any other questions on that? Move to section 3, recognitions, presentations, introductions. Number 10, we are going to once again try to get our South Iredell Junior ROTC Marines here. Unfortunately, they did not have as much success nationally as we have grown accustomed to expect them to perform. I do not think it was the students' issue. I think it was the judges and just having a little bit different preference. And the best way I can tell you in explaining what I'm saying, for those of you all that watched or remember Major Payne, when the short little boy is out there and he's rocking back and forth and they're doing a little different chant and slinging stuff, that is called razzle dazzle in drill. Apparently this year was the time for razzle dazzle and not for the good cut, don't be bopping your heads and don't be doing all this other stuff. Our students performed as well as they have and been successful in these other things. The town Troutman Citizen of the Year, as Kim can tell you, once she was made aware, she was blown away and looks forward to receiving the award. A couple folks involved with that program have reached out by phone or in person to thank us and for me to send their thank yous to you all as a town council for choosing such a deserving person that is constantly making an impact on our community. The Lowe's Home Development Team, our store manager for Organization of the Year, our store manager unfortunately is not going to be able to be with us. That's the Troutman Lowe's branch. There has been a death in their organization and one of the upper echelons that he needs to attend. He will be sending some other folks here. The CEO of Lowe's told me to make you all aware that he certainly wishes he could be here in person, was hoping to have been, but with the passing of one of their upper echelon staff, he too would be here. But he also wanted to thank you all for recognize what he hopes all of his stores strive to be, is that community partner and helping in multi facets, not just with a program to get a recognition, but as he said it, my employees live in your town and the surrounding area. If we can't help it be better, then what are we doing? And I thought that was a great comment from Joe McFarland. Also 13, recognize Jonathan Lyons as our town Troutman Employee of the Month. Chief Watson will have lots to say about Officer Lyons' interaction and how positive that has been for some of the staff and children that he represents daily. Number 4, the new number 14, request for demolition of an abandoned residential structure located at 135 Ruffin Loop. Shane was here. Did he leave?
Just about.
This is something we have been working on for a while. As you all know, we discussed with the town council to get clarifications of who could and who should and who would. At one point in time, as I have said before, states will use Eric Fox regularly to do this for them, as different council members have been, different attorneys have been involved. He did over 200 actual demolitions in the city of Statesville. Once he retired, we cannot recall one has been performed, and that's not necessarily staff, but just different opinions of ones up there. Plus, when you get rid of that many, how many more do you have that really need it, I guess is the case. But that one, I do notice as of today, somebody mowed the lot over the weekend, so there is some progress being made there. I know by the time this comes before you Thursday night, I anticipate we will have news of something else. People trying to buy the property, the homeowner himself has reached out and asked if he could tear it down, but by statute, unless Gary wants to say something different, once we begin this process, if we stop it, we basically have to start all over again. It's up to us as staff, if you all approve this on Thursday, as to how quickly we proceed, but at least we're given the authorization. That does not mean that we can't still try to work with the homeowner and say, you want to do it yourself? Here's X amount of time frame to get it done then. And if they do, great. We accomplished what we was after. If for some reason they don't, then that allows us to proceed on the town's behalf to make sure this is no longer a nuisance in the community. I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has on the demolition topic. All right. The new number 15, text amendment in reference to campaign signs. Andrew is here and did some of the work as we had already requested. This puts us more in line with what the state statutes are, to where the town was not necessarily in compliance with our own UDO, and this puts it more in line. The one sidebar I will have here for a minute, we are engaged with a web designer, social media professional to look at some things. Yesterday I spent over 2 hours collecting signs that were illegally put out all around town. It's kind of, again, depending on who you talk to is the different opinions. I had a gentleman come up here after we became the scrutiny of press because of campaign signs being removed. And again, the whole story there was our town had been mowing this property and maintaining it. Our code enforcement officer thought it was ours to control because of our maintenance in that. When other people made it an issue in him doing his job, now those folks are having to mow and maintain their own property, which I guess is a win for the town, but it did make us reevaluate our statutes. But people attaching signs to utility poles, there's actually a misdemeanor. I've asked Gary to find that one time before. He couldn't. I've asked our police. They found similar versions, but there's actually a statute years ago, unless it's been removed from the books, that it's a misdemeanor to attach any signage to a utility pole without their written permission in advance. The town does have some signs on utility poles, but does have written permission. But to put a yard sign, campaign sign, business sign on these utility poles, they have to have the written permission. Just to put a sign in what is considered to be state right-of-way is illegal without the state's permission, the property owner's permission, unless, like down at exit 42, for example, the strip in front of Arby's and that strip in front of the gas station, That's actually state-owned property. Campaign signs can be put up there if they're of a certain size within 30 days of an election beginning. But all the other businesses that want to advertise, that's still not approved, and it's not legal to do so. Andrew, is there anything else you want to add that I may have skipped?
No, I just think the main purpose of this particular amendment is, state statute requires, basically limits a sign, campaign sign to 6 square feet on state right of way. The way our ordinance read was on certain roads, basically our main roads that are all state maintained, we would allow up to 32 square feet. So again, we were violating the state's, right of way in the statute, so this would be back in compliance.
Anybody else have any questions on campaign signs?
So does this mean no more big ones at exit 42?
They should not have been up this past year. The state just refused to enforce it. Once they did enforce it, one of the commissioner candidates accused it being me, particularly from the town, penalizing him and the other person that he was running the county commissioner contest with, when in reality it was the state finally, after 2 months, enforcing their own rule.
You did say, state right away, without permission from the state, nothing except campaign signs within the dimensions given by a statute.
Let me clarify that. State-owned property in the state right-of-way allows campaign signs. But a lot of us own property on state roads. The state has right-of-way there. People can't just come and plant signs on our property because it's the state right-of-way.
These folks are just, putting up signs, yard sale or something like that, along the sides of the roads like we're often seeing. I mean, are we gonna go ahead and pull those up? I mean, how are we gonna handle those? Let me ask you.
We have been pulling those up if it's town property, town greenways. We do not go on other people's property because we don't know if they've given permission or not.
Right.
So
Same thing
it-
with state-owned property unless
Correct.
it's up to state to force their own.
Well, now, exit 42, that's where I was at a good bit yesterday, is pulling them up off of state property because they do not give permission for all these gun sales and
Right.
wash your roofs and clean your decks. They don't give permission for that. Their state statute is specifically to campaign signs within 30 days of an election.
But you're just electing not to pull them up themselves, the state's not.
Say that again, please.
The state's just electing not to pull them up themselves. I mean, you're having to go down and pull them up, so they're electing not to pull them up themselves.
They pull them up during mowing season and or if they've had other complaints. The new number 16 is text amendment for accessory structures, residential and otherwise, accessory structures for commercial. Some of the seasoned veteran council members can remember, we used to have it in our unified development ordinances that anybody that constructed a fence, the good side, if you want to call it that, had to be on the exterior, meaning if I put a sign up here on my property, you all see the good side of it. I see the inside of the bones and the structure. You can still put both sides up to be good, depending on the quality of the fence. But at least the exterior portion had to be the better aesthetically appearing side. For whatever reason, in the UDO rewrites from this company that some enjoyed, they just got a big check and left us with a mess. We had a citizen's complaints on Tally about 2 fences being built over there. And when I asked Lynn and Shane to look into it, that's when they learned that that had been omitted from our ordinances. So Shane and Andrew has come back up with that wording, and that's what that is, and that's why it is there. It's certainly you all's option if you would like not to, but again, with the citizen complaints, we put it back in there the way that it should be. Any discussion on that?
Well, does that-
Fences that are up already would be grandfathered in.
Depending on when they were built. because if it was under the old ordinance when that existed, they should be then brought into compliance. If it was in that gap period, then you're right, they are grandfathered in. Anybody else?
I can't believe that was missed.
Yes, sir, I agree.
I can't believe
I agree. Number 17, Roman numeral 5, authorization for our attorney to file a lawsuit against Mad Monkey Garage. I don't know that there's any more I can say about it other than we as a staff were criticized from the business owner publicly that when they were painting this, we should have stopped them and should have warned them then. As you all know, there's a lot of painting going on in this town. We don't know what people's painting when they're painting until a certain point in time, then it becomes apparent. At that time, due to citizen complaints, even a council member inquiry, is when Shane went and intervened. At the time, the painter said that he understood the federal law and came up here very loud and was wanting to educate us all on how ignorant we were about the federal law and what he could and couldn't do. I explained to him what our ordinances were, and the federal law that he was speaking of had nothing to do with him painting a building illegally and against our ordinance. The content of what he was painting, nobody has ever, to my knowledge, staff or elected official wise, questioned the content. Our ordinances do allow for certain signage to be painted. That interpretation is up for people, whether it's a business advertisement sign or it becomes a mural. We have spoke to the owner prior to his last visit here, expressing to the business owner, we're willing to help you any way we can. For whatever reason, somebody wanted to stop the fines. And talking to Gary at the time, my suggestion was, hey, once it's in compliance, you all can decide what to do with the fines, but to stop the fines and do nothing, then put you all in a bad light, which I think Gary agreed at the time, and I forget how he worded it, but he agreed at the time that until there's compliance, you might not want to stop following our ordinance. We understood from the property owner and even gave grace, hey, until the weather gets to be a certain temperature, we understand that you can't paint in the dead of winter and expect it to be a good quality. Last week, if I recall correctly, was the due date that it was due by to be corrected. Has anybody reached out to him?
No, not at this point.
So basically, as Gary can tell you, even if you all consider this and move forward, if he gets in compliance, then there's no need to continue with the lawsuit. But at some point in time, we're either going to have to take action or just allow him to indefinitely violate the ordinance. That's a total choice of you all.
Lynn led us to believe that this gentleman was gonna take care of it.
That's what he told us.
Right, and I remember her telling us that.
Yes.
So, again, I guess we've had no correspondence with this gentleman, but what happened between him taking care of it and the deadline? Nothing.
I really can't answer what has happened. I will say I do not expect staff to go chasing people that make an agreement to do something. If there has been any kind of reason that's good for not doing it, it's not been communicated to us. And in my opinion, once the individual agreed, this is the date I'm gonna have it done by, if it couldn't be done by that date, it was on him to come and make us aware and see if A, he could get an extension, or B, consideration for whatever it was, and maybe get more time to then get in compliance. But that's why I asked Andrew, no, he's not reached out to us, and no, we haven't reached out to him.
We have a signed letter, Mad Monkey letterhead from Mr. Nico saying he will be in compliance by April 30th, 2024.
He did the letter. That's not ours that he signed.
Right, I remember Lynn giving us a copy of that.
He said he passed it last Tuesday.
unfortunately, you know, we like to work with the businesses in our town, but this gentleman's not corresponding with us. I mean,
Several of our citizens are on both sides. Some are angry that we've allowed it to go this far. Some others are like, it's just a monkey, let it be. All I will say is what I told you all to begin with. If we allow people knowingly to break our ordinances, then we need to change our ordinances. Otherwise, as I think Gary can tell you, then we get into a pattern of selective enforcement, which sets us up to fail in the future should we try to enforce one. Fair enough?
Typically, what I do, once you authorize a lawsuit, is, so you vote on that Thursday night, on Friday, I'll send him a letter saying, you know, that likely during the week of May 13th, I will file the lawsuit. That might prompt him to fix it, or it may not, and then go ahead and, once I get it put together, then file it.
But to your point, do you want to vote on it tonight and then remove it from the agenda? Is that still your?
I don't know how the rest of my fellow council members feel, but just a question with the law, if we do file a lawsuit, would that gentleman, a Mad Monkey, be responsible for the court, for our court costs?
Court costs only like filing fees, not attorney fees.
He wouldn't be responsible for us and you?
No, just be like the filing fees, the service fees, those kinds of things.
I mean, I don't know how the rest of my council members feel, but I kind of think it would be good to discuss it today instead of,
Here, the court costs, we can recover court costs.
Yeah,
Okay,
Well,
I'm not
I mean,
sure
that's-
if I feel about.
that's $200.
Court costs, okay. I'm with you. You know, April 30th, we're well beyond it. The gentleman hasn't reached out. He has not really worked with us until towards the end, and then all of a sudden, he was very mild-mannered and complicit and wanted to work with us. We had to sign a letter, nothing. April has, for the most part, been decent weather for painting. You know, we want to, the rest want to wait till Thursday night, that's fine. But I think that's just putting off 2 or 3 days, what's inevitable in all of our minds. You know,
If,
if Eddie wants to go ahead and make that proposal, I'll certainly second it, and go ahead and take care of it tonight. Or this afternoon, I see no reason why to postpone it a few more days. To me, it's inevitable.
I do think if you all decide to do the motion now or even Thursday, to follow Gary's advice of giving him some latitude of when to file and see if there is compliance or response.
How big is your window from when we vote to when you would be required to actually make the filing? No.
there's no window.
I'm sorry, the question was what?
If there was, you know, a limit, if we vote Thursday or vote today, whatever, does that start a clock for him?
No.
But apparently no. So
Okay.
I didn't want to.
Well, I just, you know,
Still
maybe it's
wrong,
just
so-
something that's drug on, and I hate
It's
things dragging
disappointing,
on
and
when they don't need to. There's no valid need to drag them on any further.
I mean, like I said, typically my time frame. Andrew just gave me the packet of documents from the town today. So I have to go through all those and digest them and turn it into a lawsuit. So that'll take me several days. So I would suspect not being able to file a lawsuit until sometime next week. Then getting a hearing date, I just put the eminent domain case on that we have with dependable development. And the earliest court date, I guess, June 24th. So that's how far out the courts are booking right now.
Ed, what do you want to do?
Mr. Mayor, then I will make a motion that we move the vote to today to consider authorization of return to file a lawsuit against Mad Monkey.
And I would ask that the motion say for an injunction and for enforcement of fines.
Yes, please, add that also.
What he said.
Yeah.
And for what, enforcement of what?
Injunction and enforcement of fines.
For an injunction and the injunction or collection of
Is
fines.
there a second?
Second.
Is it my understanding the lawsuit isn't just filed against the tenant, but also the landlord?
Yes.
final, or is just the property owners?
It would be against everybody.
Everybody, including the tenant? Okay.
Other questions or comments?
I think we have to proceed, yeah, but I do like the idea. I don't want to necessarily retract the olive branch, but we asked him to do what he said. It's time for us to do what we said.
The owners of the building plus the owner of the business ultimately are responsible equally.
Yes,
Am I correct? For
yes.
so it's just not the owner paying the fine or the owner's paying the fine or the lawsuit too.
So I guess you'll need to make more than one phone call.
To who? I mean, I'll send out a letter to each, or a joint letter.
Because the owner of the business may say, no, I'm not, and the owners of the building,
Right.
they say, I'm sending someone down there tomorrow to take care of this.
It can't, it's not that simple. One of the building owners done said he was going there with some type of acid and getting it off. I'm like, you might want to check with your attorney before you go do that.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. So we'll remove that item from the agenda, Thursday. No old business. There's nothing else on the,
One thing we do need to add, instead of that one coming off, and I apologize, my mind failed me. We will need to vote you all for either, to authorize me or you to sign the contract going forward with our trash provider. That does need to be under old business and 5. I have talked to them, we have some clarification. I will distribute tomorrow to Gary and to you all their proposed contract and what it says with Waste Pro. Republic came back and met Friday and gave me a new proposal, and I will send that to you all out. Again, informational purposes, I send it out to everyone. Feel free to contact me individually and ask any questions you all like. I, in turn, respond to the group with whatever questions I receive, but that's for informational purposes only. Any correspondence, just send them directly to me, and I will certainly respond and keep you all informed. But we do need to add old business, the contract agreement, or at least allowing me to sign it based off the contract that is given to you all, so that you can see what
but this would be the, contract with,
Waste Pro.
Waste Pro.
Yes, sir.
Can that be in the consent?
It could be. I don't see a reason why it couldn't. Yeah.
Okay. Just add it to the
All right.
consent.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul, go ahead.
I was, and I won't put you spot if you'd rather not answer it and do it one-on-one, that's fine. I presume you've read the counter proposal from Republic. You said you got it last Friday?
Yes, I met with one of their representatives and got it Friday.
What is your feeling? Obviously, you know what Waste Pro's offer is, and now you've had a chance to look over the revised proposal from Republic. Do you think it's enough for us to relook, or to go ahead and proceed with Waste Pro, in your opinion?
The simplest way I can answer that publicly is if we're all given the same rules to play by, and we all go and make a proposal, and then once we see we're not the best offer, oh, wait a minute, I misunderstood what you were saying, now let me give you a new proposal. It is now cheaper, but we see everybody else what they had to offer. I don't know that that's fair. Quite frankly, I don't know that that wouldn't even put us in a liable situation, because we have now disseminated publicly, these are their proposals. My RFP did not specify request for proposal, because I'm sure some of the audience will be like, what is he talking about? The request for proposal did not specify whether it had to be a single driver truck or a two-person truck to get debris. Republic then came back and said, oh, we thought you wanted two people and we were going to continue to collect all the stuff that's out there. And I said, honestly, in talking with some of you all and the citizens, we have a certain amount of our population that just always exceed what that minimum one can is. It's not fair to all of our citizens to continuing to pay because 15 or 20% of our population keeps putting extra debris out there. Holiday time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's understood. And with either company, we're going to get that grace period. But otherwise, to me, it's time that, hey, if you're averaging 2 times a month of having too much stuff out here, you need to get an extra can. That way it's not costing all of our taxpayers. It's the person that's creating the debris that then pays the extra cost. So I know that's a long answer to your question, but my honest things were, yes, Republic did come back with a little better number. It's roughly 85, 90 cents a month cheaper than what the other company's proposal was. But again, I did not differentiate single driver, dual driver. I think once the realization come, oh my gosh, we might be losing that business, then the pencil got sharper.
My question would be that I think I want to cut down on my neighborhood walks and my exercise because the questions that I got is when are they gonna, like July 1st, I know that our new provider will be coming in. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, when, I'm getting questions from residents, when their old cans will be picked up. How is that gonna work?
We have not defined those clear dates yet. The last pickup of June, Republic, if we go with Waste Pro, Republic should pick up their cans. The next day, the new cans should be put out. That may not work exactly that way. We may have the new cans out too soon, but we want them out. But there will be a little bit of a transition period. We don't want anybody left without a can. And quite frankly, some people's gonna be going on vacation, some people's out of town, some people don't live here. We expect it to take as long as a month to collect all the old cans. I will say Republic said it would take them 3 to 6 months to go with a new can that had our logo on it versus using their own. Waste Pro, the first day of service, all of our cans will be delivered with our logos.
So for people that don't do recycling, they should put it out on that last Sunday of June then, even a recyclable can?
We will communicate to everyone in June, have your cans here these days so they can be picked up.
Gotcha.
If we go with Waste Pro, and I'm assuming once I finish these emails, that's certainly a decision for you all to make, but Waste Pro has already had to order the cans, quite frankly, so that they can be here in time based off of them being the lowest cost at the time we last discussed it from you all to me.
That would be another contributing factor is if we change our mind,
Oh, yeah.
now we're on the hook for
Right.
authorizing cans. No.
The old cans, so Waste Pro will be picking them up as opposed to Republic.
No, Republic would pick up their property.
Okay, the old
Waste
cans.
Pro by statute is not allowed to pick up somebody else's property. It can get into a theft or civil lawsuit action afterwards.
So the existing cans, existing blue cans will be picked up by Republic.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have one thing, the code.
Anything else from the other or?
Tell them.
Our code came in, So it's, we got our books, we only got 5 copies of the books, so we needed 6. We made extra copies and ordered notebooks. I talked with them today. We'll be getting additional books and tabs for you. Excuse me. But I've got them here for you to take, and you have, however long you want to look over them. They sent me a copy of a draft resolution to, adopt it. And at that point, we'll discontinue our old code.
And how long do we have to review them?
However long you need. However long
I
you
would
need.
not, I would suggest you all not plan on taking action until next month.
Oh, yeah, not this month, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm presuming, Gary, you'll be, or already have, or will be.
Oh, I was involved in the rewrite. I haven't seen that book.
I haven't either.
Excuse me.
I haven't seen the finest either. They should have sent at least 8, if not 9. I don't know where they come up with the number 5.
And, they're gonna send me, I contacted them today, they're gonna send me, several more copies printed. So, on this book right here, it didn't have anything on it, Eddie, I'll get you a replacement for that,
Okay.
okay?
Do you have a
And,
digital copy?
Excuse me?
Do you have a digital copy?
They're gonna send it to me, they're gonna send me PDFs, yes, sir. I asked for that today as well.